Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. On the show, you will be inspired by unique stories of strong and brilliant women just like you who have overcome in life, business, and relationship and have a passion to empower other women to do the same. What follows are authentic, real-life, unfiltered conversations that reflect how these courageous women are taking back their power, becoming the alchemist in their own lives, and ultimately making a difference in the world. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Create Your Happy. I'm your host, Christy Holt, and this week I have the beautiful Colleen Wynia with me today. And Colleen is a spiritual intuitive. She's the Reset Your Vibe energy coach and holistic educator who created Crystallize Your Vision. Welcome to the show, Colleen. I'm so excited to have you here. And I would love to invite you to share a little bit about your story of overcoming and what kind of led you to this place where you are here today.
Oh, that's a biggie, eh?
Yeah.
We're gonna do that in a short call, but we all do our very, very best. Thank you for having me here, Christy. Really excited to share this conversation with you to support whomever jives and vibes. I grew up in that traditional kind of like work hard and, put your best face on
Yeah.
and do things the right way. And so sure enough, I took on that kind of role and I worked hard and I pushed myself and learned, did all the things that my parents taught me. So from that place, I'm just going to dive right into, I'm in employment with a company right out of high school. I'm in a male dominant industry selling lumber products. Eventually I was like, that was my goal. I'm going to be a sales lumber trader and sell wood to the world. And I did it. And then it came dissatisfaction in my heart. And every single person in my life at the job spoke to me about the relationships. It was all about relationships, not so much caring about wood. Anywho, I was in my early 20s, and the turning point of all of my interest around what happens when you die. How do you live what is the spiritual life? What is eating well? All those interests formulated when my cousin Rob, he was 25 and he found out he had cancer. And at that point, Rob was like my bro. We were like, we shared a sleeping bag, a teddy bear, and built forts together when we were kids. Okay. Yeah. So he finds out he has cancer. And that was a huge turning point because my self-care bit dove in. And I was, even though we were in different cities, he was in Calgary, actually. A lot of time, Calgary and Banff. Yeah. And so what happened on the fast forward is this beautiful young man, he outpassed, lived longer than planned, but he had malignant melanoma. And then in the middle of this self-care, my dad finds out he has cancer. So these two, basically they follow the traditional medical system. I'm learning stuff, feeding them. You know how it goes, Christy? You're feeding them. Yeah. So what happens is they both die within a very short time frame, 9 months of each other. Dad dies first. He's 59. Rob transitions at 27. So a reason I share that story is it's the turning point where my desire to always get out of the job market, understand what my path is here, what we all ask ourselves most every day, some of us. I didn't know. I just knew I was grieving. And when I finally had freedom, I wondered, are they around? And sure enough, I was drawn to, spiritual medium, psychological intuitive, healers. And they said, do you notice your dad beside your bed? So basically, I started to get experiences of their presence, and they would surprise the shit out of me. It was hilarious. I'll just share one quick story just for the listeners, because it's just a lot of fun, and it helps you trust yourself more. And so, and this was the next point to the next point. So I love this story. I have a clock radio. I listened to 95.3 FM radio station in Vancouver, woke up to it every morning, living alone at the time. And I wake up and the radio station is really loud one morning. And I was like, scratching my head. Guess I bumped the volume button. All right. So turn the volume down. Next morning, up again. Okay. Third morning, it's up again. And now I've turned it down every single night. And I'm going, the ahas are just starting to come in. I'm like, vibe, sense. Am I making, oh my God. And then I got Rob. And then there was like visions, images. It's mostly a feeling. So boom, fourth morning, here's my turning point. Not only is the volume loud, Christy, the whole radio station is on a different frequency, a different channel. It's a Chinese channel. And I'm like, I don't know what they're saying. And forgive me, I do this bad thing where I kind of like, I try to represent the Chinese language and I just blow it out the water. So I'm not going to do it today, but I started roaring, laughing. And in that moment, that's the aha. That's, we live when, we still live, we're still alive. They're still with me. That's healing and grief. That's my intuition awakening. That's like my whole being just going, fuck, there's a reason here. There's a reason to live, right? And he showed me all these messages. So my dad did this, my cousin did this, and I lost many loved ones for 8 years. It goes on. They boot me out. Basically, spirit comes in, gives me a severance package. I'm out the door, don't know what to do. I only know business. So I go back to school, never went to university, and I go and do business. Anyways, so fast forward. So where we are is all of these occurrences brought me to do the inner work. And I joined a community called Shambhala Trainings. And 3.5 years later, 3 6-month programs, weekend workshops of your shadow self, I became a practitioner and a rebirther and understanding of a whole bunch of different, religions, but it was all about embodying the feeling, the experience, and the transmutation would happen in that. So I'm not kidding you, Christy. My teacher, my guru, I'm kidding, not guru, but the guy who started this program, who later went on, and him and another guy were working together, and they broke off, and Clear Mind Institute was formed, which is a very big organization. Shambhala Trainings was the one I migrated to. And I remember him years later sitting down with me over lunch, and he said, I never thought you of all my students would ever become a practitioner, supporting people and breathing and counsel and spiritual energy stuff. And I was like, so that's a little bit of a story there, but the point being, there is life after. We can heal from grief, and we can move and follow our dreams. And it freaking takes these traumatic, making up new words now, sort of hard time. I don't know. I was trying to roll into something. I sometimes come up with really weird words when I'm channeling with clients and doing it like kind of emotional freedom and energy releases, and new words come download, and whoa, where'd that word come from? Right. And it's for them, it's something that resonates with them. I've spent 20 years. Yeah, dates me a little bit. I have spent 20 years transforming lives, primarily one-to-one, and helping people overcome those self-doubt, to themselves, to heal their hearts, and to learn to surrender. And the greatest thing I can tell you that it's been the hardest thing for me is my pain, the thing we want to suppress. That's the thing. That's the magic. That's the rainbow. That's the gold.
Yeah.
And none of us, right, want it.
Well, so when we were little, we were told to shh, that's too much, right? So oftentimes we are taught to be uncomfortable with our own emotions, right? And so we have these sort of coping mechanisms. It is a trauma response, whether it be small t trauma or big T trauma. When we can't express ourselves fully or experience ourselves fully, we do things like disassociate or avoidance or numbing or any of these other things in order to avoid
overworking,
overworking, all anything basically, that you're over giving in some area in an attempt to avoid and pretend that other side of you doesn't exist. Usually it's the flip side, right? So you're overachieving because, oh my God, it would be terrifying to be considered lazy, or even worse yet, when you were little and you learned this trauma response that you need to work hard in order to be loved, your brain has wired it in such that if you don't work hard, you won't be loved. And if you're not loved, you're going to die because you rely on your parents to care for you. And so your brain is still making that little, in the back of your brain, survival response, making that connection like, okay, you got to keep up. You got to keep striving. You've got to keep doing, or you're going to die. And I know that sounds really overly dramatic. And it is. It is in a way, right? It's not the truth. It's just the way your brain is wired. And so thankfully, we can get the fuck unstuck. That's the title of my book, is really about shutting down that response so we can look at it. And instead of having the thought spirals and the emotional imbalance and then you're just kind of letting it go out of control, we're going to shut it down. We're going to actually feel it for its root thing. We're going to really look at, we're going to question, we're going to unpack, and we're going to unlearn so that we can stop having these automatic responses, right? Because they are not serving us.
No, because it's sitting in the cellular body. It's in the memory field. It's here. And every time we don't get to that root, as you just described, you are just recreating. And we need to dive in, because here's the thing. I always give a little vision. I say, imagine a fire. Like a fire, it could be a campfire, it could be anything. And you're basically, when you're diving into the yuck and it's so fucking painful, excuse my French, it's so painful, that is our ego resisting ourselves from allowing ourselves to be free, right? Free. And it's going to lose control, as you just said. So
fear of death, basically.
Correct. Exactly. Right. And it is. And then death is also at that point, at the early younger version of ourselves, the death is like an end.
Yeah.
Now, I don't see death as an end anymore, right, but I see that we're advancing our soul while we're in this human form to the greatest evolution we can before we transition to whatever next, right? Wherever we choose to go. But the thing is, the fire, I would say, look at the fire and just know that when you go into the flames of the pain, you're transmuting and burning off. That's it. You're just burning it off.
And ultimately, I think the fear behind it
scary.
is,
I was gonna say it's scary. Yep.
So there's a fear because, first of all, your brain is alerting you saying, holy fuck, we're gonna die. Which is, you're like, what is going on? This is ridiculous. My body is, betraying me. I don't know why I'm having this response. It's out of context, or out of, it's just blown up and super unnecessary. So our brain is trying to keep us safe. And so we think it's really scary. Our brain is making it scary. Our brain is saying, whoa, 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 have you thought about this? And this and this and this and all these things that could go wrong. Yeah. It's, in my book, I call it the asshole mind, because it's the piece of that ego bit that's like, whoa, 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 have you considered all these worst case scenarios? And now if you've got a mind that's really busy, you know how quickly these thoughts be popping in there, right? Just out of nowhere. And you probably have a few that are on loop, on repeat. And so, ultimately, you may have this fear that comes up very naturally. It can feel like anxiety or overwhelm or just stress, fear, any sort of, physiological response that indicates like survival mode sort of functioning. And the truth is, you're in fear of feeling your feelings, which are just a sensation in your body, right? So when you, okay, like we'll really logic this right down. What's happening is your brain is like making it so big, making it so scary and unsafe. But the truth is, what you're feeling so scared and unsafe of is just your thoughts. Just for the most part, like these fears are arising, but it's mostly your thoughts and your feelings, which are just in your mind, right? They do create your experience if you sort of let them run and all of these kind of things, because what you create inside, you project, and that creates your experience. But I think, oftentimes when I'm feeling, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so like I get that feeling. And then I think like, I'm feeling so overwhelmed just because I'm thinking about overwhelming things. And so it's not actually a necessary fear response. So then I like get to where, okay, well, what is bringing this up for me? What part of me is screaming for my attention? And this is just like being triggered or activated or, offended maybe by something that really just gets your back up, right? And so you can take a look at that. What is this telling me about me? We were chatting just briefly beforehand and talking about how the world is your mirror, right? Because what you see elicits a response from you. It's just bringing something up for you to look at.
That's everything you said is just so powerful, so beautiful. And we're just afraid.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. In that moment when you were feeling overwhelmed and anxious and you had that repeat moment, what is one thing that you could have done that could have elicited more of a calm, connected, harmonious moment?
Well, I'll tell you what I do now, which is very different than
Sure.
what I would have done a number of years ago, which would have been spiral out of control. Thank goodness, not there, have moved past. What I do now is I actually just am like, how interesting. I'm feeling very overwhelmed right now. And generally, by looking that shit in the eyeballs, metaphorically
Witnessing.
speaking, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, cool. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's not, it brings it down to a level. You're like, oh, okay, well, it's not quite as overwhelming now that I've actually looked at it and I've accepted it and said, I'm not
Mhm.
afraid of you. I ain't
Yes.
afraid of no ghost, right? I'm going to look at you right in the eyeballs and be
Afraid
like,
of no
okay,
ghost.
right? I'm feeling a little overwhelmed or my thoughts are a little, I don't know, a little all over the place. Just recognizing and accepting like, oh, hey, okay, this is where I'm at. Now, I recognize after some practice and some transformational work that I can shut that down and stop all of that thought spiral. That's what my book is about, because I really want to teach people to
Okay.
stop all of the thinking, because that's what really like, reroutes all the neuroplasticity in your brain, is just like rewiring it constantly
Yes.
to keep you trapped in that
Okay.
Groundhog Day-esque sort of experience. And you don't have to. Your brain is plastic. You can continue to create new connections every single day of your life if you choose to.
That
So,
that's
yeah.
right. Yeah. That
So,
that is thank you. That see what
yeah.
I want to identify when I asked you that was became a witness and
Mm,
accepting, and in that moment of witnessing your thoughts, because I'm going to the body, but
yeah.
because there's both. So you go to the thoughts as you teach in your book, and it's like you catch your thought, and when you catch your thought, you slow the thought down, and
Yeah.
then you slow your energy field down. So really what you're doing is you're creating more stillness and openness and calmness in your body. So if you ask me, so what would I do? Then however, depending where we are and what we're doing in that moment, of course. But
Yeah.
if there's an opportunity for me to walk away for 5 minutes from the
Mhm.
to-do list or the next push, I would literally go and if I'm at my home office, I'd go lay on my acupressure mat for 5 minutes and meditate. But it doesn't matter. Then that
Yeah.
um, decision to slow the body down then slowed my thoughts down. So we're getting to the same location.
Yes. And the
whether
thoughts in the
which way we
body.
go about it, because they both influence each other. I just want to add one thing, and then I want to hear what you.
Yeah.
I just thought it was so interesting because I used to hear from the leaders of the teachers, and a lot of the understanding of the earlier science was our thoughts. Our thoughts, like only our thoughts. I don't mean obviously our thoughts, but only our thoughts dictate our emotion. But now, but I always didn't jive 1,000% with that. I thought, no, that's not true, because I have rebirth. I've done this process with clients, massage, bodywork, rebirthing, like for 20 years. And I would watch their bodies, and they couldn't slow their thought down. If you paid them $1 million freaking bucks, because they were in a state of over exhilarated, overpaid. So we would get the breath in, and we would, slow their body down. And then the ahas would come. So anyways, I always felt a little different than what I was reading. And so then, when you hear someone like Dr. Joe Dispenza, step up to the pipeline, go, yeah, now we know it's equal. It's both thought, feeling, it all rolls together. Doesn't matter, like whichever way it comes from, it feeds the other like a hamster wheel. Those are my words. I'm not quoting anybody, but
right. And those thoughts with the feelings together, that's what wires it in your brain. It's not just the thought that floats by. Okay. So I wanted to what I was going to say to add on to this is that both the thoughts and the emotions, which emotions you're feeling, physical sensations in your body, that's what we mean by emotions as separate from thoughts, right? The emotion is really the feeling experience versus the words, the thoughts in your head, right? Both of those, if you can take a look at it, maybe it takes slowing down and focusing on your breath. Either way, if you look at your thoughts, if you sit back and look at what you're feeling, now you're the observer. You're not those things. You're not your thoughts. Your thoughts do not make who you are. You are much greater than your thoughts. And so as the thoughts come by, you are witnessing them, but they're not you. So you don't have to take them on board. And so before you make this sort of connection, you might think that all those thoughts are you. So if you have a bad thought, now you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person. If you have a grumpy response to someone, you're thinking, I'm just a grumpy person.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the truth either. You're actually, you're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're not, any of these things. You're actually the one who's observing them all as like an independent observer, seeing it play out. And so I want to take this in the direction a little bit of embodiment, because I want to talk about how that faith and that self-trust is such a crucial component in moving into that observer role, right? And then trusting and responding and acting, experiencing from that place is very different than from a simplistic sort of like ego survival response position. So I'd love for you to share a little bit more your thoughts on like really embodying that self-trust, letting go of the self-doubt and really leaning in faith, surrender, trust, acceptance, releasing judgment. I know all of that is a big part of it.
So embodiment and self-trust. Okay. So the first thing I'm getting is, often I've said to people, I said, it's very interesting. And I use me as an example. When I grew up as a younger woman, we didn't have YouTube like crazy back then. Yeah. You would go to the bookstore and you would look for these books that intrigued you, that fell off the shelf, that you had to read that sentence. And you'd learn all this stuff through books or attending something or this type of thing. And you would build a repertoire of a library. And you're building the knowledge, and then you're building the knowledge, and you're building the knowledge. And you're like, how come I can't accomplish the thing, feel better, right? Because you're just filling yourself up. So that is the first step of the young version of all of us humanness. Yeah. And most of us are beyond that. But that's where we started. Anyone starts that. But the thing is, where Christy's asked me to talk about is to embody. Is you learn the stuff. Now you got to what do you do to embody? What do you do? You want to forget the stuff. You actually want to effing forget it. Now, how do you forget it? You get into your body. How do you get into your body? Well, you guys, there's multiple facets. Okay. But different versions, different levels. But for starting out, we can, I know Christy wants to invite me to share a tip at the end. And
you're going to share it already.
I think I'll share it now. I think I'll throw the program right around the corner here. Upside down, just like the rest of our lives.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it's just coming through as kind of like a tip, but it's getting in your body. So the first thing I teach my clients is, are you getting a massage? Are you going for any type of therapy release? Are you going for energy healing, right? Are you, now my tip is breathing. I learned a practice called rebirthing. Now don't freak out, but look, Christy said earlier, death and rebirth. So in order to rebirth ourselves, there's this amazing breath work technique that changed my life 20 years ago, got me out of my grief and helped me open up my intuition to embody my pain, suffering, all of it. Hatred. I'm still doing it. I'm still clearing my self-hatred. And
man, I just want to say, it's really hard in this world because there's so much directed at keeping us in that place. So it's ongoing, right?
I'm seeing a foot, like it's like a big foot from, kind of like a happy giant, actually, not really a mat, but you know what I mean? Like as an image for us, pressing us down, compressing us down. And we're wanting to push out of that. And that's the energies of the movement of, well, now we're switching gears, but the whole energetic shift for the planetary, and this being our first time going through this level of an awakening, kind of speak, as people all say these days.
Yeah.
I went through an awakening, but I never ever called it all that. It was called breaking free of shit,
Yeah.
But,
I call it just getting the fuck unstuck, really, honestly.
I know.
Coming to that place of awareness, right? And coming to that self-responsibility instead of looking outward, you're looking inward. And actually what you were saying about the boot made me think of a meme that I've seen a bunch of times, which is like frame 1, you see a kid with like a boot on squishing his face. And then frame 2 is like, after my spiritual awakening, frame 2 is you realize he's holding the boot on his own face, right? And that's kind of part of it, right? Because we realize, I'm responsible for a lot of the pain and suffering that I've experienced unintentionally, 100% unintentionally. And it's not about the blame and the fault at all, but it is about taking responsibility because you are also the key to changing it.
Yeah. And okay, I wasn't going to go here, but as you just brought that up, everything just came with the boot and the pressure. I kept seeing the mom and the dad, the ancestral lineage. And I kept seeing this pressure. And then I saw an image of my sister. My sister, bless her sweetheart, she transitioned at 35. She went down the path of alcohol and some drugs, but it was a heavy, heavy alcohol. I went down the path of overeating and bulimia. So same wound, different outlook, I look like I had my shit together. My dad expected it. Everyone said, "Oh, Colleen, Colleen, Colleen." And he even loved me more in the earth plane, kind of, and lifted me more and pushed her down. Love you, Dad. He's my number one. He's okay. I can talk about it. But he, so this boot and the pressures, so back to the responsibility is, my dad, obviously, our parents did our best. We understand all of that, but it's our responsibility to do our work now, our inner work, outer work. So we release the demand and the judgment that we have and had and have on our parents and our grandparents and culture and everything. It's our job to relinquish our own pain and beliefs so that we can free them. Well, we could, I don't know, but you know what I mean? We free ourselves, but we're also free ourselves from the pain of believing that they hurt us. Yeah. So we need to do embodiment. So when you embody that, I tell you, just going into a powerful breathing technique with a practitioner, something I don't do as much anymore, but I do with some exclusive one-to-one private clients through Zoom and a few local people, because I'm still have one foot. I'm supposed to be working with the human.
Yeah.
And I've risen to being able to offer a program globally. And so finally, 20 years of in-person, mini workshops, whatnot, but it's the continued embodiment, even when I couldn't see the results. So that's the greatest gift, you guys, is do the work, do stuff that makes, go in nature, all this stuff that people tell you, find what works and resonates
Yeah.
with your heart and brings you the joy and happy.
And that's different for everyone, right? And we talk about that a bit on the show from time to time. It's just redefining happiness, redefining success, redefining what you're going for. Is like, stop shooting on yourself, stop following the expectations of everyone else, and just get into alignment with yourself, with your highest self, with your highest power, if God, source, universe, whatever that is, bringing that connection in. And if you don't believe in any of that, that's cool. You and your highest self, really, ultimately, it's about raising your awareness, raising the consciousness that you're bringing. Because to circle it back to the whole mirror thing, when you see something out there, it is simply reflecting information for you to look at. That's it. And sometimes it really puts a person into a bit of an existential crisis from time to time, because you really being like, so everything out there is basically, it kind of can feel like an illusion, because it's not, your experience of it is not the reality of it. It's your perception of reality. And that is really complicated to fully grasp, right? Like it's like, whoa, okay, this is like a bit much for my human brain to comprehend. But if you try it on, then you're going to notice, holy shit, when that person does that thing, it's actually not about them doing that thing. I don't know, your kid's doing something, bugging you and annoying you and annoying you and annoying you. I don't know if anybody has kids and have this experience on the regular, but they're doing something, but it's actually not them. It's just that you're kind of like, that's kind of annoying. I don't like that you're doing that. And why are you, and it's really not them, because maybe on another day, that would be just fine, and you'd respond much differently. So you notice that, and you'll notice the things that you really are drawn to or really annoyed by in other people are the parts of you that you are trying to run away from. And that is just glaring in your face, right? And you just want to, I'm not that. And so you have such an emotional response because you've been trying to stuff it. The boot has been coming down saying, no, you're going to die if you allow this. And so you see it and you're like, oh, I can't believe it in that person. But ultimately it's you trying to deny it. We're all whole humans. We're all capable and possible, full of all of the things. Whole ass human, I say.
Full ass, and it's never about that thing. It's never about the thing. The feeling, the charge that you have inside of you, that I have inside of me at the time about your child doing the this, that, your person that pissed you off. It's not about even the thing they did. It's about the unmet part. You're just being triggered, and the moment you may not know. You may know. Oh, I get it. Oh, I'm not taking responsibility. But it's really, I want to just real quick here. A friend of mine who's very enlightened, beautiful, like one of us. She shared with me an Instagram a short video reel, and it was this monk. And it was really beautiful. It was this monk who was teaching a teaching that they all learned. And it was, I'm going to muck it up a little bit, but basically he had some beads. He was holding the prayer beads. And he said something to the effect of, if something's, you've got the beads and they're kind of like a necklace hanging. And if you want this necklace, but it's over here, it's not over in front of you yet, it's like it's hanging over here, and you go after it and you push for it, you're going after it and you pull it towards you. Wish I had a necklace to show you. Then like a slingshot, you let go, it's going to one day go away, right? So anything we go after, it's going to go away. It's going to go away from you. So he said, but then if something's the opposite, it's coming towards you, and you push it away because it's something you don't like you just said, this behavior, this child, you don't like it, you're pushing it away, it's going to come to you faster or more. So
Yep.
he trying to teach, he didn't say any of these words, but I kept getting neutrality of
Yeah.
the neutrality of the matrix, neutrality of what it's like, acceptance. And again, none of those words he used, non-judgment, but that's what it felt to me, was like allowance.
Yeah.
And not pushing for the dream that you want, like do your actions, but then let go. Right. So I just want to add that little thing in that you were saying.
Yeah. And sitting in duality and not necessarily having to partake in the judgment, simply observing that things until you decide they are good or bad or up or down or hot or cold or whatever.
Yeah.
Things just are. And so, right, your perception of the thing is what actually creates your perception of reality, right? Your version of reality. Otherwise, the thing just is.
Yeah. And your version of joy or pain, right? So it is important, our version of our experience of it, because depending on our life experience, you could have I don't know, do something or say something to me or whatever, and I could take it on as like hurtful or something. But otherwise, the same thing could be felt as a different feeling, and that wasn't, the intention at all. And so it's okay. We'll have to wrap that one, because that's like just like unpeeling a whole bunch of layers. But coming into your body is really important in multiple ways. And when people come to me and say, Colleen, I want you to help me trust myself more. I want you to help me get over this self-doubt. Am I seeing signs? How do I become more of an intuitive and trust spirit and guide? How do I make my decision in life? I'm hurting. It all comes back to this acceptance of how you're feeling. Yeah. And in that, the transmutation happens. And then, do you want to ask me the tip?
Yeah. You know what? Let's hold the tip. Quickly, first, I would love to have you share what you're working on and any offers that you might have that would be relevant to our audience. Please feel free to share that. And then once you're finished with that, then we will wrap up with that last tip.
I'd love to. Thank you. There's a few things I could share with you that will support your audience. The very first one is a really handy mini e-guide called 8 Best Steps to Raise Your Vibration. Awesome. And to grab that, you simply subscribe to my newsletter list on my website, ColleenWynia.com. Grab that as a starting point for those of you who are embodying things more, okay? The cool thing I have to share with you, and my passion right now, is after one-to-one working with people for 20 years, and like I mentioned, I will still do that for exclusive clients who are really ready to create transformation. Let's talk. I'm so excited to share Crystallize Your Vision. Mm-hmm. It's my spiritual intuitive program primarily for women, and it is an absolute dream come true. I had been wanting to put something together, and it combines 20 years of all my experience into what I call my 5-point star approach. This is actually my little star. I just a little tease here. Yeah. But the star came in later. The physical star came in after the creation. And this program has literally already transformed lives to help people bring more clarity, more confidence, more creativity, get out of their way. And that is really a powerful opportunity for people to clear the emotional charge and move into the direction of their purpose. And then, but there's something that I want to leave with you guys, is one way to connect with me. I'm having one tonight. So this means, this will be next month for October, but every month I have a free online class. It's a 1-hour class. It's a place for you to basically evolve your intuition. And we dive into things like spirit signs, how to evolve your intuition, and all things transformation. And it's totally free for you. So a couple of options there for you. Thank you.
We'll have the links and the details all in the show notes so our listeners can quickly and easily find you. All right, let's wrap up with that last tip. I know you've saved something phenomenal, a nice practical tip or hack for our listeners to go out and create a little bit more happy in their life today. What have you got for us, Colleen?
This is such a powerful opportunity, a little tip, but it's nothing you haven't heard of before. The reason I'm emphasizing it, it is the number one tool that I've used to change my life, from pain and suffering to awakened willingness to live. Okay, guys, from depression to let's see what the world has in store, right? And it is the breath. It is the simplistic idea of breathing, not in a 45-minute breathwork session that you have to do with a trained practitioner, and I do recommend it. But you can do this every single day. You can start off with 1 minute if you want, or 5 minutes. And I'm not even going to bring you into the activation breath work that really lights your fire. Just to calm yourself and to calm your nervous system every morning. If you set your clock and you start in the morning, you can do it at night, you can do it any time of the day. But if you set your stage with an in-breath, okay, you know what? I'm going to show you what I do. I do an activation breath work that is a mini rebirthing. So I'm just going to show you what I do. So what it is you breathe in through your mouth and you draw your breath from your, base chakra, base energy center, up through your solar plex, up to your heart, and right up to your heart, to your chest. And you breathe in with your mouth open, jaw relaxed. So you go, you're breathing in through your mouth and out through your mouth. Okay. It's a little different than the nose breathing. Yeah. And it's in where you focus like a rep and you let go with absolutely no charge. So that's the breath. Now, it's hard at first. When you first start doing it, you might want to stop doing it. I get it. But by you continuing to go through it, some resistance can come up, but the longer you can work through it, peace will be right behind it. And it is the most miraculous for energy and for clearing trauma.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, just to really wrap this up into a little bow, sometimes things that we're unfamiliar with or haven't done before really feel weird or awkward or uncomfortable. And that's just because we haven't done them before.
Yes.
So you have to just sometimes lean in, again, throw in a little bit of trust and surrender in there and believe that this is going to help you. Because actually, if you go into it and you're like, this isn't going to work and I don't believe in this and I feel really stupid doing, it's not going to hold the same power for you because you're mentally blocking it and actually kind of getting in your own way. So find a space where you can be you. And you know what? There's nothing better than like a nice sigh. I love sighing. I love stretching like that. Like, oh, like it's just so good. Just lean into like that juicy kind of energy of just releasing in that nice sigh. Oh, so good. Just get a couple breaths.
One quick bow around that. When you do that, all your desires that you want, when you soften and come into you, then they can come to you because you're not doing the push-pull thing. Yeah.
And that's basically raising your frequency, right? That is the higher vibration that people talk about. And if you're not like, you're like, oh, that's too weird. And it's science too. We're vibrating, our energy is vibrating at a higher level, which in effect draws more high frequency awesomeness into our life and just really elevates our experience all around.
1,000%. My amazing client who's like an author and she's just an incredible she's incredible in health and wellness. She comes to me, she's working on something and she's like, at the end of our experience, and I brought her through breath work, I said, how are you feeling? And I said, where were you when we started? And she's like a 3 or 4. And I said, how are you feeling now in, I think it was 60 minutes. She was like an 8 or a 9. Oh my God. Like it's just like and I'm like 8 or 9, holy mackerel, even going 2 points up the emotional scale between 1 and 10. Like, you know what I mean? So thank you for sharing that, Christy. It's really important to use that scale.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. I hope that our listeners are going to have some amazing nuggets. I appreciate you so much. And I hope that you have an amazing day. Ah.
Lots of love. Thank you so much, my love.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.